Okay, welcome everyone. I couldn't be more excited for today's interview. I'm Navid from navidmuassis.com and here today with Pat Flynn, founder of smartpassiveincome.com and recently also best-selling author of his book Let Go. So, for those of us who don't know who you are, can you please tell us a bit about yourself and what you do with your blog and other projects you have going on?
Sure, of course. Well, first of all, just thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Sort of what I do is I have a blog that most people know me from. I have a number of different businesses, but the main blog that most people know me from is called Smart Passive Income. And I built this site because starting a business online truly changed my life. And the way it sort of started was almost by accident. I had created a website to help me pass an exam in the architecture industry. And when I had learned I was going to get sort of let go or laid off from that position, I took this website that I had that was basically built just for me, and I turned it into a business, and it made six figures within a year, and it just totally changed my life as far as introducing me to what was possible out there for me online. I had if it wasn't for my layoff, I would have never known that this sort of lifestyle was possible. And so now I work from home, and I have all these different businesses, and best of all, I can just be here with my kids and my family. Watch them grow up and just work from home. And it's not like I have these businesses and they're just running on autopilot. I still have to run them, but they are flexible in the way that they are able to provide an income for me and my family without me having to be there all the time. So I can literally wake up in the morning and see sort of more money in my bank account as a result of these systems of automation that I set up. For instance, people can come to my website. You can actually see one of them at greenexamacademy.com, the same site that I first built, my very first online business. People can come to the site, purchase an ebook to help them pass this exam, and it gets automatically delivered to them. And I don't have to be there for a transaction to happen, which is really cool. So, it's just amazing what's possible now these days with online business and the sort of tools and services that are available to us. And on Smart Passive Income, I build more businesses and just show people sort of what works and what doesn't. And I don't always hit it out of the park. I often fail or just come across really big challenges. And I share everything because I would just want people to know that it's not an easy process. It doesn't happen overnight, but it can be done. And like I said, it changed my life, and I'm just hoping to help inspire other people change theirs too if they're not happy with where they're at.
Oh yeah, definitely. You mentioned that I've followed your site for quite a while, and it's that you share everything, the transparency you have there. You even disclose how much you make every month. It's I think I've seen it quite a lot of people implementing it, but when you started out 2008, it must have been quite a new thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just figured, a lot of people see my monthly income reports and they're kind of surprised or baffled about the fact that I would do that because no one really was doing it before. And I go to them and I say, if I'm talking about running businesses online and I'm talking about making money online, it's only right that I talk about how much money I make online, so that I can sort of walk the walk, not just talk like most people do, but actually show and prove people that this stuff really works. And I show the numbers, but for me, what's more important are the lessons that go along with those numbers, which I also include next to those reports. It's just like a company in the stock market. They share their earnings reports with people who may or may not invest with them, and so people aren't investing money with me, but they're investing time to learn and sort of implement some of these strategies. So I feel like it's only the right thing to do, and I only wish more people do it because it's all about being honest and transparent, and that's how I know people have told me, well, I follow you because you just share everything, good or bad, and you're very honest. And it's kind of scary that being honest and being transparent is the differentiator. It should be the norm, but in this internet marketing space, that I'm in, it's traditionally a very sort of slimy industry, and I'm just hoping I can sort of show people you don't have to be like that in order to succeed.
Oh yeah, definitely. Today I read your book, and it's so inspiring, and it really resonated with me. So can you please tell us a little bit about that? How did it come along and come to life?
Yeah, well, I've shared my story many times before on the blog that I have, on podcasts, and even in speaking live sometimes. But it was only sort of just scratching the surface of exactly what was going on, and a lot of what affected sort of my journey was everything that was going through my head, and I felt like it was only right that I just share sort of all the experiences, all the sort of roadblocks and fears and things that were going through my head when I got laid off, which was at the time one of the most depressing moments of my life. I had just gotten engaged, I had just gotten promoted, my whole life was set ahead of me, and then all of a sudden it was sort of taken away. And so I had a lot of things to think about as far as, what that actually meant, because I was putting in the hard work and it still wasn't working. And that's really what sort of shifted my mind as far as, wanting to, if I fail, I want it to be because of something that I control or that I didn't do myself, not because of some other thing that I couldn't control. So that's when I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And so I wanted to share this story, just to share all the deep details about what was going through my head as I got laid off, because a lot of people go through the same stuff, and not necessarily getting laid off, but just a lot of the daily challenges that they have, or big life events that might get them to think differently about sort of where they're at and where they want to be. And so I had this opportunity to write this book and share the story, and I'm just so happy with how it's been received. When I first came out with it, it went up to #1 in Amazon in the small business and entrepreneurship category, which I'm so thankful for. I've gotten a lot of people who sent me just wonderful, messages of thanks and praise for the book. A couple people said that they cried because of it, in a good way. And I don't want people to cry, but it's kind of cool that I could sort of attach to people on that emotion level through the words in the book. But what's even better about why I love this project so much, because it's not just about text. It's a sort of multimedia experience. There's videos that go along with a lot of the chapters, on location shots of the places I mentioned in the book, interviews with my dad, who at first told me to go back to school after I got laid off instead of going down this path that I actually went down, and sort of his reaction of where I am now. Interviews with my wife, and my kids are in there too. So just getting really personal with people, trying to just show people the real side of sort of what happened, because again, it was so life-changing, and I'm just hoping to inspire others to do the same, or at least think about what else is out there for them.
Yeah, exactly. But when I read the book, something that really resonated with me was that you say, obviously you were scared, and that you didn't, what should I do if I don't succeed? What if I fail? But then you said also, what if it works? And that was very inspiring. How do you feel about that? You obviously were scared when you started.
Yeah, it was definitely very scary, but I've learned just in my life so far that every time something seems a little scary or risky, that typically means that it's something worth pursuing. Yeah. And I've found that to be the same over and over again. From when I first started my business, to doing a podcast and all these other things that I feared at first, and so it's sort of a good indicator for me now when that resistance comes into play, that's something I feel, that sort of doubt or fear, I'd be worried. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's there's a saying. Oh gosh, what is it? It's you want to live life with the oh wells instead of the what ifs. Meaning that you want to give things a shot and at least give it a chance, because the only thing that is for sure is if you don't take action and you don't execute, nothing's going to happen. So it's better to sort of live with the oh wells, like, oh, we gave it a shot, as opposed to the, well, what if I actually did that? And time is precious. We don't have that much time, and we can't get it back.
You would regret yourself if you don't take the right action and keep. At least you should try once. So that makes a lot of sense. And when you started out, did you have all the technical knowledge to set up your things, or did you learn that along the way? I think it would be interesting for the people listening into this, how you actually dabble with that.
Yeah, that's a great question. At first, I didn't know what to do. I was starting from scratch, and I sort of dove in and tried to figure things out. And it did take a long time, but even now, more than 5 years ago when I first started all this, it's so easy now to get something up and running. And I know it's challenging. I know it might seem like trying to learn a new language at first, and you come up to these things, you look at your screen, and you're just so overwhelmed and confused. But we all start from scratch at one point, and if you really want it, you're going to try and figure it out. And it's, again, so much easier now than it is than it was back then, almost sort of drag and drop, and to a point where you can set up a website in an hour and already have, written some content on it, as opposed to trying to learn code and all these other things. I don't even know how it works.
Yeah, I know.
To be honest, there's platforms like WordPress, which allow you to create a blog really easily for free, actually, if you wanted to start writing stuff and just start to share your ideas and potentially build an audience that can maybe you can solve some of their problems or issues or attach to them and be there as a leader and then potentially get paid back in return, or at least start a movement of some kind, which is sort of what happened in my case. So I didn't know all the technical stuff at first, and it is a challenge. A lot of people stop from the technical stuff, but just imagine how many people could benefit from potentially what you have to say and what you have to teach. How many people out there would have better lives because of you and what you have to say? Are you going to let technology stop that from happening? Like, you have to figure it out, and it's not that hard anymore.
That's really, really great advice to come with here. So, would you recommend people who wants to start an online business to go with start setting up a blog and start sharing their knowledge with the world? That's your recommendation for first-time entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I think really even before that is trying to figure out a problem or a pain that a certain group of people have and what you can do to potentially help them. And you don't have to be an expert. When I started my lead exam website to help people pass that exam, I wasn't an expert. I didn't pass the test with a 100% score. And even when people had questions, I still had to sort of make sure that they were the right answers and look them up in the reference guides. But because I was the one posting that information and because I had experience taking that exam, I knew a lot more than people who were starting from scratch and didn't even know where to start. So I just need, all you have to know is a little bit more than someone else in order to become an expert in their eyes and to be able to help them and provide value to them. And so the first thing is really trying to dissect a problem. It might be a problem that you have that you're trying to solve, or someone else or other people who always come to you to solve their specific types of problems. That's a great place to start. And then I would suggest sharing that message on a blog is a great way to do it, but there's also podcasts and YouTube, whatever platform you're particularly comfortable with, and starting on is the one I would choose. There are people who make a living from podcasting, there's people who make a living from YouTube, and there's people who make a living from blogs. And I like to sort of combine all three into my brand, which is something to work for. But you definitely want to start out with a platform that you're most comfortable with, and just start to build that audience and create that email list and start to start to provide.
Yeah, definitely. I've listened to the Smart Passive Income podcast in the past, and how did that come about, this podcast? And now I've seen it's ranked pretty high in iTunes and all that. How do you start a podcast? That's something I want to do myself for a show, something like that.
Awesome. Yeah, a podcast is I always knew I wanted to do a podcast because it was a podcast that inspired me to start on my business. So I knew it was a great way to connect with people. It took me a while to figure it out because it's not just, you don't just record and then all of a sudden it's there. There's certain technical things that have to go along with it. Luckily, I've gotten so many requests from people for how to do a podcast. I created a tutorial and it's absolutely free. No emails or anything required. I won't even know you're taking it. It's all there for you. You can go to podcastingtutorial.com and that'll redirect you to my 6 video series, step by step, what mics to get, how to set up, how to set up everything, how to make your show interesting, and how to get ranked in iTunes and all that good stuff. The podcast has just been amazing. I'm approaching 4 million downloads now since my first episode in July 2010, and the impact it's had on my business and also other people is just it's just been amazing.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you got inspired to start with another podcast. Would you mind disclosing who, for the audience, the podcast you started, your inspirations in life?
Yeah, of course not. I mean, I owe them a lot. And it's Jeremy and Jason from the podcast titled Internet Business Mastery, which has been around since 2005. I was even listening to them way back when I first started, and they've inspired me. That's where I first listened to an episode where I heard a success story from a guy making a living teaching people how to pass the project management exam. And that's really where the light bulb went off for me, because I had this website I built to pass the lead exam, and I said, hey, why can't I do this too in this particular market? There's nobody else doing it. It so happened that people were sort of already coming to the site without me even knowing it. And so I just took that to turn it into a business, and just, again, life changing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the Internet Business Mastery. I just actually joined their academy, and the
Nice.
main reason I did is because I wanted to meet like-minded people. So
Yeah,
that's
for
that's
sure.
that's my main motivation for all this. You can find most information for free, but the right people is quite hard to come along. When you started out, how did you, like you mentioned joined, did you join the academy, or did you
I
just,
did.
you did as well? Oh, you did.
I did. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, just the forum and meeting the other people in there is
Yeah,
just so valuable.
yeah,
That's really, I mean, that really changed my life, meeting those people. And actually, Jeremy moved to San Diego when I was just first starting out, and I'm from San Diego, and so we actually got together and met in person, and that was like
oh,
very
yeah,
scary. Just these guys who had great, 4 or 5 guys met up, and they all had businesses that were running already, and here I was just starting from scratch, and
yeah,
I got some amazing advice from them. I talk about that a lot in the book, sort of
yeah,
what was
yeah.
going through my head there, the advice that was given to me that changed everything. And also there's a video of where we all met, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's really really cool. But if you were like to start over to today, what would you do differently? Any life lessons you learn? You must have learned a lot along your journey, of course. So would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, definitely. Number one, I wouldn't. I would try and be more confident in myself. I know that's hard when you've never tried something before, but
Yeah,
just trying to believe in yourself and your ability. It's so important, because if you don't think something's going to happen, it's not going to happen.
yeah,
There's a quote by Henry Ford that I love. It's called whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So if you don't think you can do something, you're right. You're not going to be able to do it. So you
yeah,
have to really believe that this is something that you want to do, and also remember what you try to realize what it is your end goal is. So sort of what you're working towards. A lot of us, we like to work on stuff, and that's sort of the real time in the moment stuff, but then we forget sort of why we do what we do, and that can help you do a number of things. It can help you make sure that what you're doing is actually moving you towards your goal, and also it can just inspire you to keep going when the times are going to get tough, and you're gonna fail along the way. I failed millions of times. I don't think we have enough time in the day to talk about as
yeah,
many times as I failed, but each one of those failures was a step toward something successful, and a lesson that I learned to not do the next time. For some reason, society is just like, failing is bad. We go to school, we get the big fat red
yeah,
F on our papers, and that's fail. You failed, like you're terrible. No, you just that didn't work out that time. So maybe pivot or try something different the next time, because again, it should be a learning experience, not something that you sort of give up for. So that's the best advice really I can give you. And also sort of in relation to what we were talking about and sort of meeting other people and being a part of another community of
yeah,
like-minded people, that is so important. I would do that right from the start. Try to hook up with people who are trying to do the same thing as you, or just find a community online where people are already doing what you want to do, and just learn from them. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask
yeah,
questions, and try to be friends with them. I'm still friends with Jeremy and Jason and all those people who were in that mastermind group initially, and we all help each other out, and we're a part of mastermind groups. Nothing is more valuable than other people who can help you achieve your goals.
yeah. That I know from my own experience that all the what you talk about here, like mastermind groups and all that, that's helped me a lot to be beginning to take the right action and starting something on my own as well.
For
So,
sure.
like for someone new that like having a hard time finding the right mentor, finding the right community, what should that person do? Like, is it important to find a person that's doing something that you want to do, or should you just try to find someone who's making it big?
I think it's just important to find people who sort of share the same values as you,
Yeah,
and same goals. Not necessarily they're trying to do the same thing as you in the same market, or they're not even in the same location. You could be halfway around the world and find somebody who sort of jives with sort of your mindset, and that's really important. And really, it's just about putting yourself out there and actually speaking up in these communities. Go to Google and look for forums related to topics
yeah,
that you're interested in and find people. Go to conferences related to whatever you're interested in. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how valuable the connections I made at conferences. One of the best tips I got was from a guy named David Hooper, who was talking about what people do in the music industry
yeah,
to sort of take their brand and their music to the next level. He said, if you want your music to grow, or if you want your brand to grow, or if you want to figure things out online, Get offline and meet people in person. Go to conferences and gatherings. Go to meetup.com and try to find people in your location that are into internet business or into whatever it is that you're into. You're going to make connections that are going to change your life. And even this, it just takes one. It just takes one person with either an idea or a connection or an opportunity to change seriously the course of the rest of your life.
Yeah,
just takes one.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. You know, when you can, it's very clear when you speak about your businesses and what you do that you are very passionate about it. So, is that something that's very important when starting your business, that you really enjoy what you do? After all, when you want to start an online business, probably you're stuck at a 9-to-5 job or something and want to get out. So is it important to really enjoy and be passionate about the thing you do online?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely important to have interest in whatever it is you're talking about. I've tried to create businesses before just for the money in topics I had no interest in, and they failed. They completely failed. And so that's taught me to always at least have some sort of interest in whatever I'm doing. You know, I wasn't passionate about the exam that I was teaching. You know, I wasn't like dreaming about it or, you know, things like that. But I was interested in it because I went through that experience, and I was more passionate about helping people pass that exam. I was passionate about the process of learning how to pass that exam, not the exam itself. So you don't necessarily need passion for the topic, but you need passion to help people. I think all businesses, successful businesses, you know, focus on their target audience and what they want and what their problems are, what their issues are, and how they can deliver to them. And so that's what you should be passionate about.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, that's something I've been struggling with, but now, I mean, I'm gonna start writing about the journey, reaching out to like-minded people, and that's how I'm gonna grow as well as like when I start my little businesses and around my lifestyle. So, any advice here? Like, there's so much information on the internet. So, from my own experience, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and get information overload. So, can you recommend? Like, I don't know if you probably read a ton of books. Can you recommend 3 books for starting an online business, or like for the mindset or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, a great one is I just recently read called Decisive by, I don't know if I have it here behind me. That must be in the other room, but it's Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath, and it's all about making decisions and also making the right decisions. And that one's exactly relevant to what you were just talking about, this sort of how overwhelming things are. You know, so that's a good book. I'm trying to think of other books here. The 4-Hour Workweek is sort of a classic book that everybody should read. And you don't have to implement all of his strategies, but just the mindset of sort of doing business and automating it and making your business work for you instead of you doing your business is really important. And then also a great one to start out with is actually Platform by Michael Hyatt.
Okay.
It's a great one, especially for beginners just starting out, to sort of introduce them to really what works online. And he talks about something called the wow factor. You know, it's easy to put a blog up. It's easy to start writing content, but you're going to get lost in the crowd unless you provide something that brings the wow, you know, and really gets people to turn their heads, start sharing you. And it goes into a lot of details about how to use different social media platforms and things like that. But as far as the overwhelm, you know, really it's all about taking one thing at a time and sort of making the spotlight on that thing that you're trying to do one at a time. It's really easy to be overwhelmed by the long process and the journey and the whole, you know, looking at that end goal, which I told you to look at earlier. That can be overwhelming. But you have to sort of chunk up that goal into little tiny goals along the way and just focus on that little milestone. And then once you get there, you know, reward yourself and see that you were that much closer to your end goal. So that's a good sort of way to stay productive and motivated through a very long process.
That's some great advice here. 2 of the books I haven't heard about, so then I will definitely take up on them and read them. And any final words to the people listening to this interview? How can they take action if they want today and get something going? What if you summarize a little bit?
I mean, first, again, it's about the mindset, just understanding that, you know, if you don't do anything, nothing's going to happen to you. And, you know, so that thing first. But then as far as what to take action with, again, just diving into people people's, finding certain people that you want to help and what their real pains and issues are. Not just asking them surface level questions like, well, what are you struggling with, which is a great question to ask, but then you ask why or how come, and just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until you can get to the root of each of those issues. And that's going to help you determine sort of what to write about, what to create a site about, what products to create down the road, where you don't even have to guess anymore. A lot of people try to build businesses guessing what people are going to like, but there are ways to just know, and that just is just so exciting, because when you know you have the power or the ability to either provide solutions for people or find solutions for people with specific pains, then there's no, it just reduces the risk factor, and it just keeps you motivated because you know something's going to help. And then it's all about just putting the word out there and connecting with other people, having other people, just share your stuff because it's so good. And I think, last part of it is just, in whatever market you get into, see what else is already out there, and try to connect with those other competitors. Don't look at them as competitors. Think of them as potential partners. And then also see what they're doing, and maybe see what they're doing right, and using that as inspiration, but also seeing where they're maybe missing some stuff that you can come into that market and sort of provide something new. That gives you an advantage. Starting now, you have an advantage because you have a bird's eye view of everything that's going on, and you can sort of chisel your way into a specific part of a specific market. Hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, definitely. So before we end this, what are you up to in the next coming days and weeks? Like, what's your projects?
Well, I'm still pushing Let Go, of course, and I want to get that in as many hands as possible. And again, I want to thank you for allowing me to mention that here on your show. I'm also working on another book down the road. I'm working on a blogging course. I'm doing a lot more public speaking. Just some really cool, fun things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people see what I do and they're like, "Wow, you work hard." And you know what? I don't work at all, because I just love this stuff. So whatever it is that you end up doing, just enjoy it. Then it's just going to happen so much faster and be much easier for you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Pat, for a great interview, and you shared some really great insights here and awesome information. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Navid. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye-bye.